This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in the grace and peace which is ours because of the great gift of life, the gift of music, the gift of God our Creator, the redeeming Son, and the sustaining Spirit. For our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. And it is true that all flesh is grass. Its beauty is like the flower of the field, and the grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of our God shall stand forever. Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, the Lord of our life and death, we desire to acknowledge you in all of our ways and in all the events and circumstances which happen to us in this life. In sorrow of an heart, yet in quietness and confidence, we have gathered this afternoon for these moments of faith and of love. We have gathered to remember, to celebrate the life of Gordon Earl Hall. Lift us, O Lord, above the shadow and deadness of mortality, into the light of thy countenance and the comfort of thy presence. May we know peace. May we know harmony and balance of soul and spirit and mind and body. May we know joy and wonder and mystery and awe, the awe of creation. For you have led us, O God, to this place in this time from various places and times in our life, different circumstances of our relationship with Gordon. And so we treasure this time, this moment of gathering and of reflection. Keep us in your joy, in your goodness, and in your grace, O God. Amen. Life is ever changing. Just when we think we have balanced it and figured it out, then something happens to upset that balance, and we must adjust once again. So it wasn't too awfully long ago that Gordon was sitting here in these pews where you sit, worshiping, that he was sitting on his back deck, watching birds, that he was visiting with family and with friends and sharing laughter, sharing joy, sharing learnings and teachings. And then that changed, and he went through a difficult time of illness. One thing that we do that sustains us in life is we have various things that keep us strong and keep us able to balance and rebalance ourselves. And it's usually family or it's friends, it's work in the garden, it's the things we love, and it's faith. So hear this psalm of faith that speaks about change and about that constancy of God's stillness and presence in life. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, tremble with its tumult. Be still, be silent, be serene, be of peace, and know that I am God. I am exalted among the nations, I am exalted in the earth. For the Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our refuge. I knew Gordon in various ways, not perhaps in some of the ways that most of you knew him or many of you knew him. You knew him, I think some of you, as a teacher and an educator of life, dealing with fisheries and zoology and botany and birds and nature, things that were dear to his heart. Some of you, I think, knew him as a boss when he was one of the managers and directors of fisheries and wildlife. Some of you know him as special, significant friends, as father, as father-in-law, as grandfather. You knew him in many ways. And so this time of gathering this afternoon is a time for you to reflect and to remember. Let those memories come back to you, and some of the laughter and perhaps the smile, some of the things that made Gordon special in your life or interesting in your life. Let those memories come into you in a way. But I knew him most as a man who was highly intelligent, was interested in life, an individual who would love to tell a story, would love to relate an event, who had a special gift of kind of responding spontaneously to the situation, and was bright and eager to learn and to share. And I believe he was a gentleman. His friend John Hoover, who would have loved to have been here today and share with you, but couldn't from other circumstances, says that when Gordon walked into a room, he lit it up. And along with that quality, I believe he was a gentleman and a gentleman, polite, gracious, and kind. I think he was humble. I don't remember him ever really talking about himself or sharing any of his achievements, which were many, and I'll comment on only a few of them. He would have preferred to share and talk about his interest in life and the things that inspired him and were interesting to him. So how did you know this man that was born in 1923? He was a northerner, like me. He was born in Massachusetts. Interesting early life. Some of you perhaps know some of the stories, but his mother died when he was young. He was adopted to the Hall family when he was, I believe, 6. 5, 4, 3, 4. And I think it would be the right gesture to say that on behalf of Gordon, he thanks the Halls for the life they gave him and for the beautiful love that they shared with him. A wonderful, wonderful beginning, and he appreciates that. But what kind of man was he? Let me first read a poem, and some of you have heard this poem before, but it doesn't fit everybody, but I think it fits Gordon. A poem that shares some of his personality and his way of being alive. It's called In Sunset. My work plans finished, tasks undone, clean to its end, swift may my race be run. Laggard steps, no faltering, no shrinking. Let me die working. Let me die thinking, still with mind. Fresh secrets to unfold, new truth to find. My soul undimmed, alert and blinking. Let me die thinking. I laugh, mine, or forgiven. Spilled on the earth are all the joys of heaven. Let me die the substance of life's in time, things, and self. Give it. This was a man of many interests, and he was a man of some intensity. He was casual. He was his desire life. He was in the United States Air Force in World War II and for 3 years, Oklahoma State University and the University of Oklahoma, achieving a master's degree, specialized in fishery biology. Special paper was about the management and reservoir, and this work is still in the South topic, and he worked in Oklahoma. He came to Tennessee working for TVA in 1906, and eventually job chief fisheries and wildlife and aquatic ecology authority. I think he got the job because he was the only one that could remember and say that whole title. But this is quite a huge job, and there were many people that worked under him. And he was third or on fisheries and investigations. 30. That's a huge number, and he is still acknowledged as one of the primary experts of fisheries biology, contributing immensely to this area of life, all of which I didn't know. I don't know whether you all knew these things, but he never talked about it. He never shared what some of his accomplishments were. Instead, you would hear about, did you see the bird? Can I call you and talk to you about this bird I saw, or this eagle, or some interesting thing that moved him at the moment. But along with all of his expertise in fisheries and his acknowledged expertise in birds, here's an interesting shared in one of the articles written about him. This particular article extolled many of his accomplishments and the organizations he was a member of and had been elected into, which I won't go into. But then it said this: last and perhaps most valuable, Hall served as a mentor for the many biologists whom he supervised and assisted in their becoming valuable members of the profession. Ultimately, along with the knowledge and the abilities and skills we accumulate in life, I think he must have understood that it comes down to people. It comes down to relationships, on how you share with them, on how they learn, on how you educate, and how you help others grow in their craft. Another article written about him when he was elected into the National Fisheries Hall of Fame in 2000 shared this sentiment: his capacity to perceive a problem in its entirety affords him insight. His ability to focus on detail renders him effective, and his sense of humor makes him a delight to all who know him. So, in thinking about those words, and in thinking about the huge staff that he was in charge of for years, and thinking about the people that he would have had to work with and share with in this whole area of fisheries and biology and wildlife and birds, all with differing opinions, I'm sure, on what to do and not to do, then perhaps, as someone said, he was a peacemaker, and he earns the title and the thought of blessed are the peacemakers. All this is fueled by a huge intellect and by a scientific curiosity, curious and interested in life, always reading, researching, learning about something new, something that he hadn't understood before. And he brought that into this natural world that apparently he loved deeply. And I don't know how that natural world created in him enthusiasm for life and faith, but I'm guessing that it did. So he loved not just this world of water and lakes and streams and fisheries, but he loved birds. He apparently was responsible, was he not, for Songbird Trail and for putting bluebird boxes up, and the stories told of how during nesting season he would carry his step ladder up and go up into the bluebird box wearing a football helmet as he banded the little birds that were inside, and he's trying to protect himself from the dive-bombing parents of these little birds. But that would certainly be one way to learn about birds, and he continued to ban birds that he would trap and release on his deck in his backyard. I think, if I got it correctly, he introduced peregrine falcons to some area, and he was one of the official eagle watchers who were in the area. Oh, there's so many things, and like I say, you know so many of them, but he loved to travel. He traveled all over the United States in an RV, and he traveled to Scotland, and one of his requests for this service was enough. We have a wonderful, one of his other, by the way, with Marie, heard that beautiful tradition of Maria morning. Scotch hair, wore a Scotch plaid in honor of Gordon this morning. However, Gordon, he was invited to Africa State Department to go with them in Indonesia also, and on lakes and streams and fisheries, wildlife that the United States share. There's so much what we're privileged to do is hearers from and family. I believe you have something you were going to share this morning. Okay, try.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. It's a wonderful man. Kurt, Charlie, and myself had a wonderful grandfather. His name was Gordon Hall. There's so much I want to say and tell about the life we had with him. It was a relationship built on the love we had on the love he had for us, and the admiration that we had for him. When I look back on all the pictures and the walks and the trips and the family outings, the holidays, and just the day-to-day talks that we had, I can honestly say that the man had a good life. He enjoyed his family, and his family enjoyed him. And when I look back on all the pictures we've shared through the years, I notice he always had a smile on his face when his family was involved. My grandfather, Gordon Hall, will always be greatly missed. His memories will be with us forever. And I know he is in a better place now, looking down on us, smiling. And if you know my grandfather, he's wondering how in the world we're all going to make it in this world without his advice. We will miss you, Grandpa, and your life will live on forever through the stories passed on through the years to all your grandchildren and all your other great-grandchildren.
He did love people and his family, certainly, especially. He also loved his dog, Bo. It's up for grabs whether Bo or the family come out on top. But Bo is family, so I guess family trumps. Loved the natural world, loved learning and understanding, loves telling stories. And in honor of his storytelling and sharing his experiences, everybody here is invited to a reception following this service in Fellowship Hall. There's a microphone set up, so if you have a Gordon story that you would like to share, you are invited to go up to the microphone and share that story. Here's another poem, and Wendy, we'd like you to speak when this is done. This is by Grace Coolidge, and it was a particularly important poem for her that was written on the death of her son, Calvin Coolidge Jr. You, my son, have shown me God. Your kiss upon my cheek has made me feel the gentle touch of Him who leads us on. The memory of your smile, when young, reveals His face, as mellowing years come on apace. And when you went before, you left the gates of heaven ajar, that I might glimpse, approaching from afar, the glories of His grace. Hold, Son, my hand, guide me along the path, that coming I may stumble not nor roam, nor fail to show the way which leads us home. Jason, we all need mentors in life, don't we? We need people to help show us the way. And that's a poem that reflects that smile, the kiss upon the cheek, and the love that your grandfather showed for you. Wendy, I don't know if you want to stand there and speak loudly, or...
recall his dedication, his support, his assistance, and his wisdom before he leading to the field long before others realized it. There was one trait mentioned by a couple of people that I could identify with. This was his willingness to give free advice. Oh boy, did I ever know that. The one setting me far back more than any other was his willingness to give me free advice and my willingness to reject it as faith. Looking back, I guess it was difficult for this man who was so used to having others seeing as a constant knowledge, and rightly so, to have a daughter who thought he couldn't possibly know what he was. There were some interesting recollections that I put on my list, so I can't explain where it all came from. Two called him a madman, and then prefaced that anyone who would hire me on the basis of one phone call must be. A couple called him demented, as in all biologists from Oklahoma are. If you're out in the audience today and you wrote that, I will send that to us, because I too am an Oklahoma biologist. A few said he was patient. Really? Have you ever been in his auto? And there were two curious references to Plain Pete. I have no idea what that means, and I'm not sure if that's something that can be shared before the daughter. All that aside, I really like taking a little time to see the side of the world that so many countless others witnessed, but that I was just too stubborn to observe myself. For that, wherever you are, and you find out your good, your next year in my course, always good, I'll always love you. And I hope I can pass on to my sons and my grandchildren what will be. In view of your many fine qualities, as I tell them stories of the great accomplishments of man.
In honor of Gordon's love of birds, and at the request of family members, I'd like to share with you a couple of verses from this very beautiful song on eagle's wings. You who dwell in the shelter of the Lord, who abide in God's shadow for life, say to the Lord, my refuge, my rock, in whom I trust. And I will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. The snare of the fowler will never capture you, and famine will bring you no fear. Under God's wings your refuge, God's faithfulness your shield. And he will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. And if I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, And if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing. Rejoices in truth. Believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. For love never ends. So when you get down to the core of a person's life, it might be a life full of accomplishments and articles they wrote. It might be a life of knowledge that has analyzed the depths of the sea and the birds of the air. But if they don't have love, kindness, charity, compassion, then maybe it's not quite as important. So Gordon had those things. He loved his family, loved his friends, loved people, maybe was sometimes impatient and or difficult, but did have love. Charlie, I believe you are going to read a letter from Curtis.
Thank you, Keith. My brother could not be here today because he has a new baby, lives in Maine, and is moving to Alaska or something. But he wrote this very nice thing, and I wanted to read it for you all. The first stories that came to my mind when I began thinking about my grandpa were those that made me smile. Grandpa was famous in our family for his thriftiness and almost obsessive pursuit of a good bargain, perhaps the consequence of his Depression-era childhood and Scottish heritage. When I was in college, Grandpa phoned to tell me that he had found some great furniture for my apartment. All I had to do was come to the dump to collect it. For our wedding, he sent us a check with instructions to buy a clock and insisted that we send him a photo of the clock, perhaps as proof that we had not squandered the money on something frivolous. I remember Grandpa as a man of great energy and passion, which he channeled into his many and varied pursuits. He particularly loved to travel the country collecting depression glass for his relatives. When I was 7 years old, he asked which pattern I would like him to collect for me. Not really understanding the significance of this decision or how important this project was to him, I picked a color and pattern at random. Over the years, Grandpa enthusiastically collected an entire set of green optic dishes for me and frequently greeted me with the phrase, "I have a new piece of glass for you." His adventurousness and lifelong curiosity were great inspirations to me. His house was filled with paintings and souvenirs from his travels to Europe and Africa, as well as his RV trips across the United States. His many interests in wildlife, botany, history, geography, and science encouraged me to pursue knowledge for its own sake. He was so enthusiastic about learning new things. Grandpa always asked me about my own travels and studies, and he sent newspaper clippings of stories and trips that he thought would interest me. I always admired the breadth of his knowledge, his stamina, and his sharp sense of humor. Grandpa played a large role in my life. I know that as a child, I modeled much of my behavior after him. I'm sorry not to be here today with the family, but Amanda and I were fortunate enough to be able to say goodbye to him during his final days. I wish that our son Samuel had been fortunate enough to meet his remarkable and inspirational great-grandfather.
There comes a time when the memories will have to suffice. The memories and the knowledge that we've received from somebody, perhaps still an understanding of what their advice would be if they were here, and an appreciation for that advice. It's never too late. And so it's time to say goodbye to Gordon, to let him move on. And let's let him move on, first of all, with this poem about a lark. A late lark twitters from the quiet skies, and from the west, where the sun, his day's work ended, lingers as in content, there falls on the old gray city an influence luminous and serene, a shining peace. The smoke ascends in a rose and golden haze. The spires shine and are changed. In the valley, shadows rise. The lark sings on. The sun, closing his benediction, sinks, and the darkening air thrills with a sense of the triumphant night. Night with her train of stars and her great gift of sleep. So be my passing, my task accomplished and the long day done, my wages taken, and in my heart some late lark singing. Let me be gathered to the quiet west, the sundown splendid and serene, death. I believe Gordon was a man of faith. He did not parade it around like his accomplishments in life. It's not something he talked long and loud about. But I know he was a man of faith. He found no contradiction between science and God, between rational, logical explanations and explanations of faith. Prayers were seemingly important to him. I know that when we visited when he was ill, he would always relish and share in our prayers together. And so ultimately this is what I think and what I would like to share with you about Gordon. He knew that you could peer into a water system, into a lake, into a dammed up river and analyze it and create details and data about it. He knew you could track and determine the realities of some of our natural world, like fish and birds. But I would suggest that he knew the greater truth of life that goes beyond this rational analysis. I think he knew that life is ultimately profoundly mysterious and profoundly magical. That there are within life things that we just will not ever quite understand, quite know, and quite grasp. That we could know some of the truth of our world, but not all of it. And it's in that part of mystery and magic and that place of awe that is part of that scientific search. It is there where love and life mix. And I think that's where God lives, in that place of mystery. And I think this is one of the things that made Gordon special, that there was always room in his relationships with life and with each and every one of you for mystery, for that which is beyond knowing and beyond understanding. And so that now we let him transition, we let him move on. Transition where? Faith says to the other side, to that place where mystery and awe come together in reverence and the sacred. It's a beautiful journey, and we wish and pray Gordon well on that pathway. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me. And may there be no moaning of the bar when I pass out to sea. But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark. And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne of time and place the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. Would you receive this benediction? And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift the light of his countenance upon you and give you peace, now and forevermore. Amen.